Love that sound.
Yes. Welcome, everyone, to Lifestyle with Lintott, the top podcast for wellness, corporate health, and living your best life. Today, I'm honored to be interviewing Loulou Gaget on school wellness. We are going to be going deeper into how to improve your mental health, become more productive, reduce burnout in the schools, which is so important, but also in your life, in your job, and your workplace beyond. My name is Luke, and I coach seekers of healing to get healthy and loved and direct corporate wellness programs that work. Thank you so much, Loulou, for coming onto our show, onto this podcast and the live. And I would just love to hand the reins off to you to introduce yourself and anything else you would like to add about your experiences. I also want to mention Loulou is CEO of Power Move Yoga, and she is based in New York. We actually met on LinkedIn, and we have in common that we are both yoga teachers. We have both taught at the same yoga studios, ironically, and have also both taught yoga and wellness in the school. So thank you once again for coming. I'd love to hand the reins off to you to introduce more about yourself, Loulou.
Yeah, thank you so much, Luke. It's such an honor to be here with you. And just like, the alignment between what we're doing, in each of our lives and in each of our careers is just so incredible. And I really think that, that kind of just speaks volumes. Like, you meet the right people at the right time. And I really think that, everyone kind of has those like little synchronicities. So I'm thrilled to be here with you. So like you said, I started Power Move Yoga in 2020. And I actually started, with a partner and then kind of went on my own. And it's just been such a wonderful, wonderful journey. Our mission is to empower yoga instructors and to empower our students at the same time by offering inclusive and really just special and tailored and really kind of unique classes to exactly what our populations are looking for. So we started partnering with schools in 2020, and it's been such a wonderful journey to just see how our students have grown. I've been teaching yoga since 2019, or I've been teaching since 2018. I've been certified since 2019. We know how it is, right? And it's just been such an incredible career path and such a special place to be in wellness right now. So yeah, I'm here to answer all the questions, yoga and wellness and movement and meditation and breath work. I mean, the power of a deep breath, like it's so important, especially to start bringing those habits in when you're young.
Absolutely. I so agree. And as some of you may know, I began in corporate health in the schools, similar to the great work that you do, Loulou. It actually began with my fourth graders when I was doing my counseling internship. And every single week they would come running to me and grab me and ask, Mr. Luke, are we going to do yoga today? And I would always tell them, yes, absolutely. That's my favorite part of counseling is the actual medicine, the movement, and of course the consulting, which we'll go deeper into. But I also worked in the high school. So right before, and it's ironic because a lot of these great things that you have been doing began kind of at a similar time when COVID hit, right? When mental health became a huge priority. So actually right before COVID hit is when I launched the Helix High mindfulness program. And I worked with a group of ninth grade females who had the highest rates of hopelessness in the school, and also a group of boys and girls that were 10th and 11th graders, right? And it was crazy. So the 4-week yoga program ended the week that the schools shut down. And I surveyed the students, both the boys and the girls. And after just 4 weeks together, the day before lockdown began, the girls reported that less girls agreed that their feelings were easily hurt. Less girls felt stressed out most of the day than before beginning the mindfulness program. And more of the girls agreed, I am reaching my fullest potential in school. And that made me so happy to see, especially since literally the last class I taught, they announced on the intercom to the school, to the students, that sports were canceled as of that same day, and that the next day the school was shutting down, right? And a lot of our students, at least they had some things they could do while they were home during lockdown during this time. That wasn't just 2 weeks, right? It lasted. It's still affecting us today. I know that the pandemic is of course officially ending this month, I believe.
Mhm.
But I just know that for me, like the data has really shown that this truly works, and it can be in as little as a month. And I'm curious to hear more about your experience in the schools. Like, what are some results that you're so proud of with your students, and maybe it is with your corporate clients or your private clients?
Yeah. I mean, just like you said, it's a huge impact that movement can make on someone's life. And that goes for any age, any stage. I would say that middle school and high school age, those like really like, for the risk of sounding cringe, like a tender age, like it is a tender age. Um, you know, those times can really be so important to start building those habits and to start, experiencing those new things because you're creating a positive association. So obviously it's wonderful when, I'm working with preschoolers and, I see these, twos and threes and fours starting to same thing, like run over to me when it's time for class. And, I personally teach those classes at this point, and just being with them and experiencing, their memories from the prior class and their kind of building blocks that they're creating, and this positive memory and this positive association that they're building in their minds that they'll have for life, can just be, it's so important. And I feel like echoing it's so important, but the reason for that is just having a resource kit to fall back on during those harder times and during those moments when we start to realize, things aren't looking exactly like I thought they would. Doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 13 thinking that, you could be 30, you could be 40, you could be 50, 60 thinking, oh, things aren't working out in, my career or my relationship or my, home life, or, my goals aren't being met by X, Y, or Z age. You start to have these kind of thoughts maybe in your life. And that's when mental health can start to kind of maybe fall by the wayside. You start to push a little harder at work or in your relationship or, with friendships, and you kind of lose sight of that a little bit. So when you have that early on kind of toolkit to fall back on, that includes movement, that includes meditation, that includes deep breathing. You and I took a deep breath before we started on here just to get ourselves centered, and that seems small, but that's actually such a big thing and such a huge kind of opportunity that it creates to collect yourself and bring yourself into the present moment. So when we're building that with kids and we're seeing, week over week, class over class, they're starting to bring those tools from the mat out into their day to day, especially in the classroom. That is when we see huge strides, not only in their confidence, but in their grades, in their focus, in their ability to connect the dots with more kind of complex structures and things that they're learning about. So, I mean, maybe roundabout way to answer your question, but the results can be so far reaching beyond just, maybe you take yoga for a year in ninth grade. That really does matter when you come back and you're 23 and you're in the workforce and, you start to need that again.
Yes, absolutely. And I can feel, Lulu, that we're going into this new era where people are starting to see that more and being more efficient and having more on your plate is not necessarily better, right? Since we
Mhm.
are right now in the great resignation, right? Last year, over 50 million people resigned from their jobs. And studies are showing that people are more than willing to take a lower pay rate if mental health is valued at the workplace. And we're really seeing that also amongst the youth, right? Like giving more and more to-do lists and things that may make things more efficient sometimes may correlate, right, with the higher anxiety rates, the higher stress rates, right? I know in my master's in counseling, from our own very professors that have been in the field for decades, they mentioned that they had not seen suicidal ideation in children like they have now. It was unheard of for a second grader to come and express a desire to end their life, right? And now things have shifted, right? Because and it's correlated with this this focus on efficiency and correlated with this focus on, and it may be with social media, it may be with us maybe not connecting in the same ways that we used to, right? When it used to be you just were kind of grounded in your community, right? And now we're it's a beautiful thing, but it's a type of thing that really needs to be taught, especially mindfulness and taking a break, right? And breathing, like what you and I just did before our podcast interview. And so I'm curious, like I'm working with a bunch of different businesses right now that really treat their employees like assets, like Nordstrom, Lotus and Luna, and the list goes on. And one of my corporate clients said the other day when we were meeting, we desire to disrupt what is normal, and we desire to have wellness at our workplace, at our store, right? And I loved hearing that. It was so inspiring to hear that people are really thinking outside of the box and really, adding wellness in schools, making it available to everyone, not just something that some people might do after work ends at whatever time or school ends. It's something for everyone. It's built into the day, just like what I did when I was at Helix High. We did it actually during PE, right? It was simple, right? I had like 75 girls all at once, and the same with the 10th and 11th graders, and they loved it. And I remember it was really funny too, Loulou, because they really took it seriously when I told them. I literally trained with Jennifer Lopez, one of Jennifer Lopez's teachers from the past. And when they heard that, they're like, J-Lo's doing it, I'm going to try it out, right? So there's different ways to make people see that this is valuable, right? And so I'm curious, like, and in terms of making a disruptive change in valuing health and wellness over in New York and beyond, what has worked in changing the pendulum towards longevity, towards health and wellness, towards mental health?
Great question. I do want to just start by addressing something that you kind of touched on a couple of minutes ago. And you just said that people have shifted from spending time with their community to spending time, maybe on the internet. And that's kind of something that's been flagged in front of me, in a number of different ways recently, that the third space, in air quotes, is, kind of diminishing because of the internet. People spend a lot more time on their phone and on their computer and, watching a Facebook Live or a LinkedIn Live, just kidding, or listening to a podcast rather than connecting and spending time in the third space. But I do think something that has moved the needle is creating wellness and fitness spaces that feel like a third space. And for me, that's always been critical, and a huge element of understanding, the way that we're going to push ourselves forward at Power Move, and the way that we're going to offer a strong product is just understanding that people desire community at every age and every stage. And what I want to, stress to any client that I work with is that we can create community in a different way than what we're used to, simply by moving together, by breathing together, by meditating together, and just by offering these options and these opportunities for someone that's never done something before to step into a new space and say, okay, fine, I'm going to try this, because it's here and it's happening now, and I might as well. And that can lead to, I've tried that before, let me try it again. And you kind of have this kind of compounding effect where, then you don't even realize it and you're doing it a few times a week, whether it's yoga, movement, meditation, whatever's going on. So, I think something that's really pushing a realization in my community, at least, is that fitness and wellness and just being present are so much more than just showing up and doing, work to get to a certain goal, whether it's flexibility or strength or focus or, whatever you're going for. It's walking the walk, it's showing up and connecting with each other and having that opportunity to just make a little bit of a more joyful day, if that makes sense. And kind of to build on that, like, I think there's been such a huge push. Sorry, my dogs. The one thing we didn't prep for, right? Control the dog. There's been such a huge kind of push for wellness spaces to open. And, you know, parents are doing it. So to have a place for kids to do it too, it's a game changer. Let me just let me kick it over to you. I'm going to mute myself while these doggies are barking.
No problem. I think you brought up some really great points about the value of being present. And I was just mentioning to my online class today that in the present moment is where transformation takes place. The
Yep.
past is already written, the future is unknown. Right here and now is when you decide which of your multiple realities you're going to pursue, right? And so if we're constantly lamenting the past, regretting what we could have, would have, should have done, then we're not going to see like, wow, I can live my best life now, right? I can be happy, choose to be happy now, in spite of these circumstances that I may currently be under, because everything in life is temporary, right? And I know that's a big thing that I offer to all of my clients, including, of course, my students. Little did we know that was all the more relevant in 2020 when lockdown began. And the thing also I wanted to add on is it's so important to connect with each other in any sphere, right? And I think now more than ever, we're seeing a shift in people's mental health post-pandemic, post-lockdown. People are sometimes, I've had clients tell me that they're struggling to reintegrate, right? And to really communicate with each other well after so many months and years being isolated, right? And so that's where this great wellness comes in. And yes, it might be the yoga, but it also might be hypnosis. It also might be retreat, workshop, right? Not everyone can do yoga, as we know. Like some people are in wheelchairs, right? And they still can do this great work, you know, that we have to offer. So I think now more than ever, it's important that we find these new novel ways to connect. And I think just to point it out, like you and I right now across 3,000 miles are authentically connecting, right? Without the internet, you and I would have never connected, even though we have so much in common. Like when I read your website, I was really like, we have beautiful things in common as queer owned businesses, and also as businesses that are providing wellness. So I just wanted to point out also that mindfulness is necessary. It's not necessarily like a luxury, right? And so now more than ever, it's important. And going back to the schools, we have elevated rates of anxiety and stress that we have never seen with children, right? And I know in the school counseling field, we would routinely have students come in who are having panic attacks. And we would, you know, and they would always, a lot of times they'd be like, hey, Mr. Luke, they knew I was a yoga teacher, so they'd always have me meet with the student, and we would do some breathing together. We would do some talking about it to really bring down that fight or flight mentality, you know, using those tools that we have here as wellness practitioners. But I think it also goes back to, instead of just putting a Band-Aid on the situation and just doing some quick fixes, like we need to change up our lifestyle, you know, which is really like all the great thing I'm really passionate about, like creating that routine of meditation every morning, doing a hypnosis on positive vibration, which I'm doing with a company soon, right? If you are feeling constantly like down, right, we need to get you out of that prolonged mood, right? It's okay to be down for a while, but we don't want it to be for like multiple weeks, months, and years. So like, I'm just curious, like, about your insight onto, of course, more of that, especially with the youth, especially with people out there listening that might be struggling with these elevated rates of anxiety, of uncertainty with the future.
Muted myself again for my little puppy, sorry. But yeah, so I mean, when it comes to anxiety and panic and all of these kind of mental health things that we go through, I agree. Let me give him a second.
And I just want to say, if you're listening with us now, just breathe in through your nose, hold it in, and exhale. And I know a big shift for me has been being okay with imperfections, right? Just having fun with it, because that's just life, right? Like having your doggy there joining us for the podcast. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's two things, you know, when you're faced with kind of these things that pop up, right? Whatever it may be in terms of mental health and just kind of coping. And even in that in-between moment when you're like, something's a little off here and I don't know what it is. and I don't quite know how to address it, and whether you're having that feeling within yourself or with your kids in your class or with your child at home, just having those routines in place, I wholeheartedly agree, can be such a game changer. Whether it be meditation, whether it be the deep breath, whether it be just introducing, mindful moments, whether it be introducing a brain break, a movement break. And like you said, not everyone is at the same kind of level and looking for the same thing. There may be some kids and some students in general that are looking for more movement, and some that are looking for more breath, and some that don't even know what they need in the moment because they are in such a fight or flight state. So, when you can kind of, one, model those things yourself for your students, for your child, for, the people at your company, whoever your population, your stakeholders, the people that you care about, that you love are, whoever, if you can model that for them instead of, saying do this or do that, that'll show them, okay, this is a safe thing for me to try too. Second, starting to implement the routines and make space for the routines, whatever they may be, that can really just be helpful. And, a lot of the time, things like anxiety are, coming from a deep, deep space of, maybe lack of confidence, or, kind of more physical, or a more physical thing where there's a chemical imbalance, or we really don't know what the necessary source is. So when we can come at it from a space of just knowing, we're going to take this moment by moment, that can be really helpful. And actually creating the structure and creating the routines can create a little freedom and a little space to know, okay, I know I have this time to do this, so I'm going to feel a little more confident and a little more brave in my day. And the part two is just actually doing it and staying consistent. And even, that encouragement of trying something new can be a confidence builder, can be, a bolster for someone that's going through something. Just knowing that they have, tried something new and it worked out can really be helpful.
I love that you touched upon too, that consistency. And I know, so actually during the darkest time of my life, when I lost a job, I lost a 9-year relationship, and I also left a graduate program, felt like everything that mattered to me in my life just crumbled before my eyes, right? That's when I decided to make this wellness consistent and not dependent on if things are going great, right? There's this saying that when things are going badly, you should work hard, but when things are going great, you should actually work harder, right? So like we should spend more time maintaining that momentum when things are going great, but especially when you're in that dark space, that's still mandatory for you to do as much wellness as you can. And I know during my life, when I was really stressed out in my program and I decided to leave, right? I was working 12-hour days and all these things. And the only time that I had was breath, right? And 15 minutes of yoga online, right? And that at that time was what worked. But I know it's important to customize and make sure that you do something differently, right? And that it doesn't just get swept under the rug, so that you can get more of those to-do list things done. So I wanted to mention, to encourage everyone out there, like that's why it's important to have community to keep you on that path. And I know that was the big thing for me when I moved to San Diego and I started doing yoga every day, was having friends and people on a similar journey, right? Who are keeping me accountable. And that really transferred around. I began doing yoga in the schools, in having that consistency, that regularity of like, we're going to be doing yoga at this time and this place, and it's actually put into your school day. And so I always tell people, I'm like, schedule those wellness activities just like you schedule your meetings.
Yep. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you have to, because when, like you said, when things are going well, that's the time when you're like, oh, let's skip this one.
Just skip it, won't do it.
What I actually see, with the schools that I work with that incorporate either in their school day or in an after school program, and they have some accountability through the people that they're doing it with. They know that their, kids know their friends are going to show up. Even teachers will come and join in. They know yoga's happening at that time. They're having a tough day, or they have a break, or they have a prep period. They just drop in and they'll start stretching. And it's really incredible just to see the schools that are putting in that effort to make that offering. It may seem like something extra, but it's actually become something that is necessity. And even if, you're working with a population or a group that, isn't necessarily going to do a whole like flow the whole time, or a whole meditation the whole time, or they need to break it up into 5-minute intervals because they're 3 years old and 4 years old and they're just learning how to do this for the first time. That even those little moments can just be so big in the end, because they do add up. And like you said, when you're in a situation where you maybe only have 15 minutes to jump in and out of something, and that's it, you don't know how many days it's really going to take to kind of compound and to start to really feel good. You might have a Monday and you only have 5 minutes for meditation. Tuesday, maybe you have 5 minutes for meditation and you have 5 minutes for a little stretching. Wednesday, maybe you have 5 minutes for meditation, 5 minutes for stretching, 5 minutes for a little breath work. And that's the day that it starts to hit and you feel amazing, So it's a snowball effect. And I always kind of come back to my like teenage self, and it's, what would you go back and tell yourself, right? I wish I could tell her that if you fall off, you just get right back on. And it doesn't have to be this dramatic thing where you're starting over. And it's, you took time off, like, just like with your podcast, Luke, you took time off and you're back, and that's it. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. You take a day off, that's okay. You don't have to do double the next day. You just start again and you just enjoy it again.
Yes. And a way I think about it too is done is better than perfect. So it's about doing something, right? And us imperfectly showing up here and sharing our gifts is better than us doing nothing and keeping everything silent, right? Like we're out here purely sharing the value of you making that change. And I wanted to mention too, that like a big shift, I would tell my former self, I was thinking about this when you were saying it, something when you were speaking earlier, is that it helps you get into flow when you take that time away for you, right? Whether it's meditation, whether it's the yoga, it's the fitness, right? I know that after I take my own mandatory yoga classes, after I do my own required meditations every morning, that's when I get all these epiphanies. And I see that like me getting back on the hamster wheel and doing the same thing I did yesterday might not get me to the results that I so desire, right? In my body and my life, whether it is dating, whether it is in what I do in my business, right? I come to all these epiphanies when I do mindfulness and wellness. And the crazy thing is that when you are exercising, when you're doing yoga, what have you, exercise and movement, you're connecting with the super conscious. So that's why a lot of the times, one of my CEO clients told me this during one of our sessions. She was like, Luke, I had this huge epiphany about my job during our 60-minute session about what direction I should take my company towards, right? And so I think I just wanted to reiterate like that it's necessary, right, for you to become creative, especially as we are now in the age of imagination, not the age of information. We can Google just about anything. And so I think really like that is something so beautiful that I also noticed when I worked with students in the schools is giving them a space to activate that innovative, creative self, as still not all, but some schools and some institutions are based in the more hard sciences, the English, those classes that are not as artistic, right? And unfortunately, we're seeing this with the budget cuts where arts programs might be closed down or these other things might not be prioritized, right? Now we're starting to realize like when you activate those parts of your brain, you're literally improving focus, right? You're doing something else so that you can better focus on your math and these other things. So I just love to hear more about advice you have for other people out there that may come to you, Loulou, and they're like, I would love to do your yoga program. I'd love to do mindfulness. I just don't have the time and it's not a priority. What words of wisdom would you give to them?
Yeah, so I think a trend that I've seen, to your point, Luke, is that in the schools that are hyper focused on STEM, when you show up with a creative tool or a physical leaning tool, like yoga, like movement, like meditation, like something that gets their brains into imagination mode, the kids love it. They go wild for it. Suddenly the kid that didn't want to show up for, the free period that usually they would just sit there and do a little extra math or a little extra tech or a little extra whatever's going on science, they're ready to engage, and maybe they want to chat a little more, and maybe they want to stay a little late and talk to the teacher a little bit more, and it just helps some kids really open up. So I would say that for one is just picture what it would be like for, maybe a particular, child in your school or a particular family in your school who's not as engaged as it could be. Picture what it would be like if you saw them show up really excited and really passionate, and you could feel that they want to show up and they want to be there. That is something that I would say you can hold in your mind, that vision holding a little bit, and kind of see what the yoga and the movement and the mindfulness and the meditation and the wellness could really look like. And I think that goes the same for organizations, like just like you, Luke, I work with some larger organizations as well. And I just see the appreciation on people's faces when they walk out of a space, or even like I have a class coming up that we're going to do in Central Park with a bunch of people in, a corporate environment that they're usually inside all day long. And they're just going to be so thrilled to be outside for that like 40-minute session. It's not even a full hour, but I know it. And I'm really happy to bring that to them because it just brings so much more engagement. And I think that's the key word here is how can you embrace something new and something different and something that you maybe have deprioritized in your program in the past, and just say like, what if this is the key to a little bit of deeper engagement in my community? And maybe it's not the only key, maybe it's compounded, maybe it's a little snowball effect with a couple other things, but if you're going to invest in something and you're going to really put time and energy and focus into implementing something new, like some of my schools and some of my organizations have chosen to do, you will see the return on investment immediately when you see that student's face, that employee's face, that group member's face, that they're just feeling a little bit better. So my goal always with my classes and with any instructors that work with me, we always aim for the same goal, which is if everyone in the room could just be feeling a tiny bit better when they leave than when they walked in, complete success. So that's kind of what I would say, and I would also just say like, look at the math a little bit, look at the statistics here. Like it's the amount of success that schools and different organizations see when they put an emphasis on wellness, like the proof's in the pudding, it's there. Just Google it. do schools with yoga and wellness programs do better on state tests? I guarantee they do. There's a Harvard study that I actually posted on as part of my website, and it just says that learning postures, learning poses, learning some physical movements can increase student confidence. And who doesn't want a more confident student base walking around your school? Confidence is the key to a kinder, more compassionate, and more open-hearted person. And when those kind of people are walking out your door and graduating from your institution, they come back and they give back. And that's where it shows up, over time. It's a generational thing. Like you said, we're in the age of creativity. I love that. I've never heard that. I love that. And I think, educators out there, if you're listening, like you have the time right now, you have the opportunity right now to take your place and make it really beautiful and do something really different than the past generations have done. And we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to make every single change that needs to be made, but with everything going on, like how can you make your space more heart focused? How can you make your space more wellness focused and give your students just something special to remember that they did together with you?
I love that. And I wanted to mention, I have some hard evidence in yours truly that mindfulness and yoga works
Oh
for
yeah.
reading comprehension, because I actually took the GRE to go to graduate school right after college when I was drinking a lot, not doing any meditation or mindfulness and
Mhm.
movement. And I scored in the lowest 40th percentile. Then a couple years later, after I'd been doing yoga on the daily for 2 years, I literally hit the top 10% percentile for reading comprehension, verbal reasoning, and and it was like, whoa, like I'm the same person. Yeah, I read some books, but it really had to do with transforming my mind, because before I was so anxious, I was depressed, I was not as feeling good, right? And it reflected in my abilities, right? My academic aptitude. And you're seeing this over and over and over again, that students that feel appreciated and are in the moment are able to concentrate and have even better discipline. And what we think about in counseling, it's called self-regulation, right? Being able to really be in the moment and do what you need to do in order to really learn these skills, right? That last a lifetime. Another thing I wanted to mention that you were touching upon is your energy, right? And I know sometimes it's hard to quantify if you have good energy or if you have quote unquote bad energy, but this energy determines your life. Yes, it determines who you will date. It will determine what jobs you will attract, what clients you will magnetize, right? Now, I've noticed with my own energy changing, it's really transformed my life, right? Like I've been attracting wonderful clients I couldn't have ever dreamed of attracting a couple years ago when I didn't focus on my outlook, like my mindset, my perspective. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about doing wellness with one of us or with something else, is that it literally changes your cellular makeup. It changes how your body forms and what it becomes, right? You have a new body every 10 years. Literally, these bones are brand new from when I was 25, 10 years ago. So there's that whole physical piece, but there's also the emotional effects that your thoughts have on of course your health and your physical well-being. And there's actually that study done in Japan where participants were actually asked to direct, sadness, hopelessness, negative energy into water, and the water crystallized into very not attractive formations. But the water that was prayed over with love turned into these beautiful crystals. And you really see that with my own body. I'm dead serious. Like when I did not love myself, that manifested in my skin, that manifested in my body, in being uncomfortable with who I was and overweight, and once again heavy drinking, not eating right, eating out of cardboard boxes. And now I've noticed these shifts in my DNA. And I wanted to mention too, and if you read about it in Neville Goddard and also Dr. Joe Dispenza, when you pray with energy of love, and it's positive energy, you can literally unwind strands of DNA. But if you pray with energy that is selfish, or it's hopeless, these negative vibrations, it doesn't work, right? So your attention, so I just want to mention, that might be what's stopping you from really getting your desire, whether it's love or it's success or it's acing your SAT if you're a high school student, right? I'm sure we're going to have some people listening to this who are in school right now. It's about that energy. And so I just want to invite you to really work on that. And that means making these things mandatory, like doing your wellness, doing your trips, you're getting your coffee, whatever it is, connecting with great people. Because we talk about this more when you work with me, but if you're connected with toxic relationships, toxic substances, foods, what have you, this could also be lowering your vibration, keeping you from getting higher. And I want to hear like your perspective on the whole energy medicine aspect of the great work we do in wellness.
You know what? You're inspiring me so much right now. And I'm like looking at my little like pink quartz sitting right here. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's show the people listening right now what it's like. So I'm gonna invite you, if you're listening right now, or if you're listening in the future, just take a moment here and close your eyes if you're in a comfortable place, or just bring your gaze down. Take your hand to your heart and take your other hand to your belly. We're just gonna take 3 breaths together. And while we take these 3 deep breaths, just start to focus a little love either back to yourself to someone that you're thinking about, to someone that, is on your mind, someone who's, in your class or in your organization. And just take a deep breath in through your nose, fill up your belly, and exhale through your mouth. 2 more breaths, just like that, filling up through your hands. Capturing all that good energy as you inhale. And exhale, sending it to whoever you're sending it to. I'm sending it to you right now. Last breath all together. Inhale, fill up, feel it. And exhale, send it. And before you open up your eyes or look up, I just want you to take a moment and just notice, is there a shift? Are you able to bring your shoulders away from your ears a bit? Are you able to feel maybe like a tingle up your spine or a little bit of a deeper feeling in your lungs when you breathe in? Can you connect a little more with this present moment? Maybe things seem a little clearer. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes and just notice your environment. Do you see like a little bit more clear air? Maybe it's kind of disconnecting from the screen and reconnecting to yourself, but that's what energy looks like. That's what energy shifting is. And imagine if we can do that in 3 breaths, what can you do in 60 minutes or even 45 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, however long you have of movement and of mindfulness and of really bringing yourself into your body and just out of your mind. A lot of the time I'll say this thing in class and I say disconnect to reconnect. And I'll say it sometimes in emails too, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it's something that I keep saying. And what that means is just disconnecting from all the chatter and all the, things going on and schedules and time and, gotta be here, gotta be there, and just a lot of movement around you. Just disconnecting from that for a few moments and reconnecting with yourself allows you to then create space to reconnect with the people that are in front of you, with the things that need to get done, reprioritizing maybe some goals or some, systems that need to be addressed. Like, allow yourself to do that. And when we're talking about energy, we're talking about so much more. But for the sake of time, just take that kind of tangible moment as, what does energy shift look like,
Thank you for that, Loulou. That was wonderful. I just wanted to mention, I notice more colors and I'm just here in the moment. And it's true that when you change your energy, you change your life. So 99% of our actions are automatic, right?
Yeah.
Our subconscious mind is running the game. And when your energy is good and you really take those steps, doing the breath like we were just doing, and the meditation, I want to say even deeper, doing hypnosis, you can really reprogram what you were programmed to do between the ages of 2 and 6 years old, when you were in theta waves, when you were hypnotized into being the person that you likely still are today. Now, I want to mention, for some of us, we misinterpreted things that we learned about ourselves, or we decided that we should be a certain way, even though that's not innately how we were. And I know for yours truly, it had to do with me truly loving and accepting my skin, my looks, my sexuality, embracing my gift as someone who has rhythm, someone who loves music, someone who is a creative, right? Not necessarily copying what I saw, right? And I think that's the great thing, once again, going back to being in the age of imagination, that the mindfulness that we just did with you, Loulou, it helps so much, is really seeing clearly what you can do differently, right? What you can do to get to your desires sooner. And also there's the other side of that, where it's about being okay with where we are right now, right? So that first step to change is to just seeing where you are right now, because 99.99% of human suffering is actually right here in our mind. Yeah. It's not that we're challenged with something right now, it's that we think we catastrophize, right? And to really stop this tailspin, it's for me, it's been about really connecting with great people like you and doing my own mindfulness practice, right, every day, making it a requirement. But I want to go a little bit deeper too into the hypnosis aspect, and that's something I am bringing to businesses, and also I'd love to bring it to schools too. But it's where you can actually hypnotize yourself to be successful, right? And I have different hypnoses out there that my clients have truly loved, like one on positive vibration, one on focus, right? For those of you that are feeling scatterbrained. And I want to mention too, we even have a 12-step program. And these programs are actually 90% effective if you take all the steps. But the first thing that comes out of it, the first step we need for people to really get on board with this is that desire, right? And that really, really, whether you are a student or you're an adult, like really seeing like, I desire to, live my best life. I desire to do my absolute personal best in school, whatever it is, in my love life. And so I'm curious, like, we know that it works. We know that if we Google it, that it's proven to work in the schools and that it will decrease anxiety rates and help with your focus and all these great things. For the people that are still like, well, I'm not sure if I desire that. I'm just going to keep doing what I did last year, what I see everyone else be doing because it's been working. Like what has been helpful in shifting the desire for people to go for it, to do something different, to get a new result?
Great question. I mean, to touch on your element of like what's going on in your subconscious and changing what's going on in your subconscious quickly, like any meditation, like you don't even have to go as deep as hypnosis. Any meditation can get you into your subconscious. So maybe even starting there, like just starting with a quick little 10-minute meditation, just download it from wherever, get it on YouTube for free if you want, is even just a step in the right direction. And then when you're ready for things like hypnosis and you're like, okay, I'm ready, I know what I want now, then you dive in. But I think that kind of goes with this sort of shifting and changing desire. It's almost like the willingness to just step a little bit in the right direction kind of comes from it's almost like when a school or an organization is willing to offer like, fitness classes, right? That's like a step in the right direction for them to offer corporate wellness. That's a step in the right direction. Offering PE is a step in the right direction to offering yoga, mindfulness, meditation, movement, breath work. So I think it really just comes down to leaders who are willing to say, okay, this is a little off from what I'm used to, but I'm willing to take a little toe dip and take a little test here if maybe this might work for my people. And I do work with, some schools that have a very special and very unique population, kids that are having emotional, developmental, social needs, and I think organizations like that are more open to, receiving their students and their population and meeting them where they're at are more willing, I think, to be open-minded and say, okay, you know what? Let's try something, because they know that trying something new is going to help their people, their kids, whoever they're helping. So I think the first thing is just, if you're even somewhat curious about offering yoga in your organization, offering mindfulness or meditation in your organization, there are so many resources out there for you, like, that are completely free and completely risk-free. Like if you're interested right now in offering yoga and offering meditation, I will come in and I will give you a free demo and you can never talk to me again if you hate it. Guaranteed that's not going to happen, because that's never happened. But that, things like that, and offering, even just a little community get together during your professional development day or during your corporate retreat, where you all gather around in a room and you take something on YouTube, or you FaceTime with a yoga teacher, or, you just try something different. Those moments are when you start to shift everybody around you. And guaranteed, you're going to hear one or two naysayers that didn't love it. but you're going to probably hear a lot more than that. Probably majority of your space of the room is going to say, hey, can we do this again? So, and really feel the connection. And if you don't even hear that, just watch and just see, are people a little more talkative after? Is the meeting a little more productive after? Are people a little more vulnerable after? So it's really just, I don't know necessarily that I want to give myself a lot of credit for shifting the desire, as you said, but it's almost like these leaders that are willing to just take a chance.
Yes, I love that you mentioned leaders that are willing to take a chance, because I think what I've noticed with the most innovative businesses that are growing the fastest, they are the leaders that are doing things different, right? We're in 2023, and we know that these old ways of doing things, they might have worked back in the day, but they're not necessarily working now, right? Like we are seeing like these rates of hopelessness at record highs in the schools, and the same goes within the workplace, right? And the number one reason why people resign, it's actually not income, it's appreciation, feeling that they're not valued, they're not treated as humans, right? And the rates are higher than we've ever seen before. So, and you see that in the schools too, like when we treat our kids, our youth, like they are amazing beings, so much more than even their test scores, right? So much more than their looks, right? In a time when we are very visible, right? Especially growing up on social media has changed everything, right? And so I really think having that shift in our society and as a world is really necessary, as we are now in a borderless world, right? And our youth now are the first generation growing up in a borderless society, right? They're connecting, most of their friends are oftentimes online, and they are in different countries, and they're really growing up very self-aware, which I absolutely love. Like it's really great because all the information's out there, all the tools are there. And I wanted to mention too that with the leaders that I've been working with, we collaborate and we team up, and when you work with me, whether it's at a school or it's at a business, a corporation, is that we of course offer that session like you were mentioning, like a wellness session, and it can be the yoga, it can be hypnosis, it can be meditation, it can be something unique that your company needs. But number two, we also do an audit. So we do a wellness audit, and I go in as your consultant and see what you would need to make that long-term change to create consistency. Because I just wanted to explain, like there's beauty in a one-time session, but there's like impact when you go all in, right? When you are with a consultant, when you are working with Loulou or working with me, with someone, right? To make wellness and health and productivity a priority, right? And I love you mentioned too, like just notice after that first session you do with whoever you desire to collaborate with, like how people are connecting. And I know, so for me, Loulou, I've made my best lifetime friends. Of course, actually, I've made a lot of them here on Facebook, online, what have you. I even met one of my followers when I was in Bali, and he was amazing. But number two, it's been on my mat in yoga. And like literally, like we have these like deep conversations after class, and we find out we have so much in common. We have a lot of intersectionality in a time when sometimes we're very divisive, right? Especially what have you on social media, politically, what have you. It's like so great because in these spaces, you're able to form a new identity, a new collective, since your identity shapes your corporation, right? The culture, if people are going to stay, if they're going to leave or not. And so I want to mention there's that. And then there's the other piece where it's like in this online sphere, when I'm teaching yoga, when I'm doing these workshops, it's beautiful to have someone in the UK up there, someone in New Jersey right there, and then some Cali people in the center. And we're all like sharing and like really supporting one another in this new online sphere. And I know there's this idea amongst some people, like we need to just do in person. The online is bad for our mental health. But I think that there's simply like there's no way, first of all, there's no way to get rid of the online space and doing things digitally. It's gotten too far down the road. And so it's really at this point about using it to our advantage. Right. And so that's what I think is so great, is like our work can touch so many more lives in the online space. And that's why I absolutely love working with my clients online too, like, and with the hypnosis, but with the yoga, with the wellness, and with authentically connecting. So I just
Yeah.
want to, I don't know if you want to touch upon that too, like, yeah, anything coming up.
Yeah, I mean, so I've done a lot of online classes. I started in 2020, and we started, really as an online community, an online collective of instructors that just wanted to keep teaching and wanted to keep offering what we offer and do what we do best and what we love, and give back to people and help them feel good. So, um, you know, between between kind of the the option to be home more and the pull to really show up in physical space, like we can be a little exhausted, and I think it's called the paradox of choice. It's almost like you have so many options that the option that's going to pull you is whatever's going to help you show up the best. So if showing up for you looks like staying home and knowing that someone happens to be online at the same time as you, that's great. Show up. And if that's your population, I have a school that offers online classes quite frequently, and our online classes are great. The people still want to be there, the people that are in class, and and they still kind of get the same impact. I'm not going to say it's exactly the same, because as an instructor, as a leader, you can't really change the environment that they are in. You can only change your environment, but just having that real time, in the moment connection can also be huge. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to do something, with, like, if you want someone in California and you're here in New York, and go try Luke out online. Like, who cares? Just give it a chance, give it one try and see how it goes. And then that kind of is always going to lead to that multiple try, because how can you not go all in once you experienced it and you know how good it felt?
Beautiful. Thank you so much on that encouragement. And I invite you to just commenting below, connecting with us online is an amazing start. If not, sending us a little DM. We are here for you. And I wanted to ask you one last question before we close out. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Ooh, he's going broad. Um, the best piece of advice I've ever received. Um, hmm. I think it probably is that when something pops up in your mind that's negative, just taking a moment before you absorb it to just say, okay, that's just one part of me saying that. So if you're having a bad hair day, you look in the mirror and you're saying, this is so superficial, but you're like, oh, my hair looks rough today. Taking a step back, instead of taking that at face value and taking that to heart and walking around thinking you look like a cockatoo all day, take a moment and just say, okay, that was a little critical of me. I'm going to put that aside. What can I find that's maybe a little more positive about, wow, look how I'm smiling right now. Or wow, look what I just did in that meeting. Or, look at the impact I just had on those kids in that class. I think just having that kind of gentle inner dialogue of reframing some negativity with yourself can really help. So just on the topic of mental health, best advice I've received.
I love that. Thank you. And where can people follow, find, like you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can find me online at powermovestudio.com. That's Power Move Studio, just one S, studio.com. You can find me on Instagram at Loulou Gaget or at Power Move Yoga. And same as Luke, I'm open to DMs. I'm open to, please connect with me, follow me. I'm happy to talk to you, consult with you, anything that you need. If you're just wondering what it would even look like to work together, I would love to chat. And yeah, if a student or a teacher or an administrator or a leader of an organization that really needs to hear this, I would love to see you share it. I think it's really important. Luke has such a powerful message, and he's meeting with these really, really special people all the time. This is something that I've watched before, not just showing up here to listen to share. I've actually listened, and I think it's a really great resource. So whether or not, we end up working together, feel free to connect, feel free to ask away. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, your insight, Lulu. Greatly appreciated. And if you like this podcast, please rate it. And we'd love to hear your reviews. And of course, follow the podcast Lifestyle with Luke Lintott. And I'd love to connect with you in our free Facebook community, Mindfully Sculpted. Thank you so much and have an amazing day, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye and stay well.